Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. We are about to begin a new scenario, one that will introduce us to the late 1800s and the age of gaslight. This is the time of the fictional Sherlock Holmes and the infamous Jack the Ripper. Our campaign is set in London and is entitled The Curious Case of Bare Knuckle Bill. It was written by a whole host of people over at Stygian Fox, including Robert Grayson and Stephanie McAlia. I will list them all in the credits at the end. Our game master is Jason Melnichuk, and this is going to be episode 1. Before we begin, let's introduce our players and their characters. Let's see. Josh, why don't you go first?
Great, thank you. So my character is Benedict Allerton. I'm a detective, very much in the spirit of the time and sort of the Sherlock Holmes narrative. My character is rather short in stature, but is very handsome, sharp and intense look in his eyes, very, or I should say an individual who's always taking in his surroundings, always looking for clues, as it were. He's been a detective for a number of years now, about the age of 36, and he got into the detective business because his father was murdered as a child, and that murder went unsolved. So he's always sort of had this inner drive to fulfill this occupation. Works well with the local police, and obviously has always been drawn to the agency that he currently works with, but does have a good freelance business of his own.
Excellent. Kevin, why don't you go next?
My name is Leland Brockworth. He had spent about 11 years in the British military as a Teamster. He'd served during the Second Afghan War. And after leaving the military, he was able to purchase a cab in London and operated as a cab driver. With Hudson and Brand, he became kind of their go-to man for getting around the city quickly. All became pretty much their exclusive cab driver on call most of the days. He was even transitioning over into learning how to do investigations, sometimes backing them up if they needed an extra person around. He's worked with them for several years. He has a wife, Veronica, and a daughter, Sarah. Brockworth is a robust man, tall, about 6'2", blonde, plainly dressed. That's about it.
Okay, cool. Raymond, how about you?
Well then, where was I? Oh yeah. My name's Henry. That's Henry with a capital apostrophe. A lot of people use the capital H, but most of my friends and me muckers, they call me the Bull, or just Bull, from me being the London Bull from a few years back, because I'm what you might call an ex-prize fighter. I don't think you ever get to be an ex, you know, the streets never go right out of the man. Anyway, what can I say? I had a little bit of the old Friar Tuck over the years, so I made a few bags of sand, and I'm doing all right for myself. I ain't exactly rags to riches, but I'm doing all right, as you can tell from me old whistle here, right from me tit for to me daisies. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't quite get that? Yeah, tit for tat. I didn't mean to contract that. It's a tit for tat on the top of your head, the hat. You know what I'm saying? And then down there, they got the old daisy roots, the boots. And nice thing about these is I've got enough of the old muller, as they say, to pretty much get myself a pair of brogans that's actually got a left foot and a right foot, as opposed to just 2 feet. Anyway, me whistle flute, well, that's me suit here, and pretty much that's a nice set of Norfolks. Right now, it's a little bit chilly here in September with a touch of the old rain coming down, and I have to wear a muffler around my face because pretty much I'm a handsome lad, you see, because you can tell that from me bugle here. That's me nose, and I've got a nice Roman nose. It's Roman all over me damn face. And then me ears, well, basically, they're, as Lady May says, flowers, cauliflowers. Yeah, and then my old jackdaw, the joy, well, that's like iron. And sometimes when I'm smiling, you can see all 4 of me pearly browns. Anyway, so that's me. I'm a big lad. I'm a really big lad. I've got a long reach as well. That was my big thing, you know. It's a little bit touch of the speed and the old reach there. Anyway, my job really round here, what can I say? All these muckers here of me, you know, Fletch and Ben and all the others, what can I say? They're a bunch of toffee-nosed gits and they need to be looked after. You know what I'm saying? I'm a bit of a minder. I looks after them. I minds them. So that should be pretty good there. And let's have a look now. I've been with Hudson and Brand a few years now. I'll go back to the Billingsgate mermaid mystery. But there we go. We'll get more into that later on. All right. Up to you then, Fletch.
All right. Thanks. Stuart.
Hey, I'm Stuart. I'll be playing Reed Williams, retired Army, veteran of the Ashanti-Anglo War and the Anglo-Zulu Wars. For the last 9 years, been completely retired, fascinated with bizarre culture, folklore and tales and oddities that I've seen during those 2 campaigns. He's been drawn to keep up looking into odd and unusual things throughout folklore. He's joined a detective agency looks to keeping up his skill. Very loyal, looks after his crew. That's what he's about. And he joined this agency some few years ago, and he's been working with them ever since.
Excellent. And my name is Fletcher Kane. I came into the employ of Mr. Ulysses Brand a number of years ago. It all started with a game of cards, and he realized that I had quite a few skills when it came to deception. I am not officially outside of this room. I am, you'd call me a con man, a grifter. I use my God-given talents to persuade people to do what I want them to do. And I do this for Hudson and Brand. They've found me quite useful. And that's really all I want to say about that. So, without any further delay, let's begin our journey into the darkness. Jason?
Hello, Jason here. So as we start, everyone around the table is at 33 Golden Square, Soho, London. It is late September 1889, and it's a bit of a rainstorm going on outside. And the players have are just finishing up the grim task of meeting with their lawyer, who is handing them officially the keys to the location and the business. And, you know, shook each person's hands. And unfortunately, you know, without any bodies, we can't officially declare them deceased, but it was there in their last will and testament, if they were unheard from for 6 months or longer, that the business and the establishment be turned over to you gentlemen, as long under the account that you will continue the search. And he said you would know what that would mean. And he hands over the key to Benedict, and, you know, he basically is, you know, any other questions? I mean, everything was basically covered in, you know, in the letter left by them, but, you know, I will leave you to your new home, I guess I can call it.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, terrible business about our former employers, right?
Agreed.
Well, as far as the lawyers are concerned, of course, but we haven't completely given up hope.
It's true. There's still a bit of investigating to be done. The lawyers say that he left the letter. Is it around?
Well, the letter that was read, it was just basically his last will and testament stating that the 5 of you are to inherit the business and the property as long as you continue the search. Now, you would assume that from their tales that they've investigated such great evils in London, and they were trying to continue the peace and, you know, do justice by the Queen.
Any chance of a cup of rosy?
And then Mrs. Levi is standing. They're both standing at attention. Mr. Malcolm Markham and Mrs. Levi, who are the servants for the establishment, all of which we've been dealing with them on and off for a while now. She curtsies and she runs off to the kitchen to prepare some tea.
Is the will a recent will, or has this been set up for a long time?
It was set up within the last year.
Do we know where the last whereabouts of Hudson and Brand, where they were headed?
They were investigating the Irish anarchists. There's some bombings that had been going on in London, and they were investigating leads on that. But even the police and all of you have lost the trail.
Do they have some sort of investigative journal we could look into, maybe?
Yes, we have access to all of their records now. We can finally find out what they meant by some of those things that they said to us.
You can feel free to investigate the home as you wish. It's a 6-story building. You have access to 2 stories. The basement and the ground floor level are where the business and the rooms are for the Hudson and Brand agency.
The other stories are
tenants.
Got it. Okay.
Now you also know that there's a garden, there is a library. They collect every newspaper that they have subscription to every newspaper that they can get their hands on, foreign and domestic. And so you guys could look through that or.
Okay. Well, let's see what we can find. Do people just come walking in the front door and ask us to help them with stuff?
And with that, you hear a knock on the door.
I apparently have the power of prophecy as well.
Someone's at the front door.
And Markham opens the door, and standing in the doorway is a shivering child, maybe 11 or 12 years old, cold from rain, skin and bones, not starving, but
What
and
on earth?
he has his bowler hat in his hand, and he's just kind of looking up through wet hair down his face.
Come up here, son. Now, what's a soapy bubble?
He
Trouble,
kind
know
of
what I'm talking about?
timidly walks in.
He's going to dribble water and mud all over the floor.
Miss Levi, get a blanket for the lad.
And she goes off to another room, and a few minutes later she'll come back with a towel.
Boy, what's your name?
My name is Albie.
Albie. And where do you come from, Albie?
Well, the thing is that I'm in need of some detectives, some detectives.
You need some detectives, and what seems to be the case?
Well, and he kind of pushes his hair out of his face, and he's like, my friend's gone missing, and I'm really worried about him. And it's been about 2 days now, and he's very, very shy. Not shy, I don't want to say shy, but there's something, he's disturbed.
And this friend of yours, from a neighborhood that you come from, or?
His name is William Hotlock. Bull, you instantly know that name.
You're talking about Bare Knuckle Bill?
You know him? Yes.
Yeah, I've seen him around a little bit. Andy lad. He's earned his place.
Anybody else can make a roll for intelligence roll to see if they recognize that name, or an education roll.
Yes, didn't I place a bet on one of his fights a while back?
Anybody pass?
Yeah.
Nope.
I did not.
All right, so whoever passed, you instantly recognize the name, and he has been one of the bare knuckle fighters. He's actually undefeated. He's never lost a fight.
Mm-hmm. So I recall I made about $13 on that fight.
What?
Pounds. Sorry.
Bull, did he give you a run for your money back in your days?
$13. Hang on. Henry's getting his fingers out of $13. Oh, you mean £7.50, right? No, £7 10 shillings. I'm sorry. There you go. Because the dollar, well, they have dollars, and there's 4 of them in a pound, right?
The dog says no.
Yeah, it is. It's 5 shilling.
Prize fighter,
Anyways.
eh? Bull, did that prize fighter give you any trouble back in your day?
Oh, he was a young whippersnapper. He's 10 years after me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like he's undefeated until he's defeated. You know what I'm saying?
So, Albie, when was the last time you saw Bill?
Well, I don't know if you heard, but he lost a fight that night.
No longer undefeated.
And well, after the fight, I give him some bandages, and I help him. I help him out a lot, and after the fight, a couple guys. I think they were it's like a gang. They kind of came into the dressing room and the back room, and Bill told me to just get lost, and you see me tomorrow at work. I work at the Elephant and Castle. Sorry, the Elephant and Castle. I'm a cellar boy. I bring up the barrels and the casks of ale.
Albie, you said you've helped Bill in the past. Have you ever seen these men, the men that came into the dressing room?
Well, sometimes they drink at the bar, and they're and he's kind of reluctant.
Can you describe these gentlemen for us?
Shaved heads, and he's kind of he's biting. You see, he's biting his lip. So,
All right, son, you don't need to give a name out because it wouldn't come out from here anyway. You got a villain gang name to go with that? Like the Timpsons?
he's looking like I'm afraid. Well,
Look,
I want to.
there's a lot of nobbling going on in that business. Tell you now, I've been working hard to get that done, changing out the Marquis of Queensberry rules. It's a dirty business. Sounds like Bill's got himself into a little bit of bother there. You know what I'm saying?
And
So, why don't you?
he blurts out the greens, but you see he's very, very afraid.
All right.
Mum's
a word on that. All right, son?
And he nods his head.
Do you know who he fought?
Johnny Power. Oh, that's what he goes by. I don't know his real name.
Would I?
No, it just
And you say he's gone missing. He's not there today.
Well, normally he would come in. Well, since he lost, he would go for a celebration drink after every fight, but he didn't do that. I figured he didn't do that because he lost the fight, but he always comes in the next day to see me. He gives me a little bit of pay, and we talk.
Do you have any idea where he lives? Have you ever helped him out at his house?
Yeah, I know where he lives, and he gives you an address, and you write it down.
Thank you, boy.
Now, did he go off with these fellas?
I don't know, because he told me to go home after.
You didn't see him after, right?
No.
The fellas didn't have a peculiar accent by any chance, did they?
They might have been Irish. I'm not sure.
Well, London's full of the Irish, eh?
Any of the rest of you fellows recognize the Greens? Does that name mean anything to anybody?
If they're a major gang, they probably do.
Yeah, you've heard of them.
Yeah, they have pretty bad business.
They're not major players in the city, but you do, especially Bill would know that they do run a lot of the gambling on the boxing.
Well, and would I know where the gambling is? I should.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, I'll tell you, it wouldn't be over at my Aunt Vi's, that's for sure.
Sounds like Bill may have gotten himself mixed up into something. We clearly have a few things that we could go follow up on. Does anybody have any additional questions for the boy?
Well, can Albie meet our retaining fee?
I'm sorry,
That's
what?
actually what I was about to ask.
No,
How
I
are we
could-
going to get paid for this job by a child?
And he kind of looks up. He's like, well, and he just shrugs his shoulders. He's like, I just,
Our
Son-
first case pro bono.
Son, do you think that we are in this job for charity's sake? I mean, you say pro bono. I suppose it's a good deed. I'm not so sure that this sounds like anything that we're supposed to get involved in.
well, Bill always talked good about your boss. He knew one of the guys. That's why I knew to come here. I remember him saying a few months ago about, if you ever got in trouble, kid, just look up these guys. And that's the first thing I thought of. And you see, he's got like tears, like wet eyes, and
All right, son, sit out. Oh, Miss Livy, could you run up and see if we get a plate of scraps or something for the lad? Let's get some breakfast in him and warm him thoroughly up. Gentlemen, I'd like a word.
Come now, Fletch. How many times have we started a case and only to find some way that you were able to make us a buck?
I guess it won't cost much to at least go over to Hatworth's or Hatlock's apartment to see if he's there.
Let's. If you guys want to get involved, I'm certainly up for whatever you want to do. I have to admit that the little boy is almost as good a manipulator of you as I am, but it's something to do.
Well, in the absence of any other pressing business, it certainly can't hurt. And
I've made money off of Bill.
Yes.
£13.
Well, I mean, publicity. We find a missing fighter. Could parlay that into actual casework.
Maybe. He certainly is a celebrity, an important boxer right now, and he's going missing.
Sure, Bill would be willing to compensate us for our troubles if he is in some real danger.
I should like to know if his manager is beside himself. If he's not beside himself, then he did it.
I'll be he's like, manager, he just took care of himself. If anything, I'm the closest thing he got to a manager.
All right, son, we'll do what we can.
And he writes down, well, yeah, has you write down the address of Bill's house, and then also the place where Albie works, the Elephant and Castle.
Yeah. Is that like a restaurant or a pub?
It's a pub.
It's a huge pub still in existence.
We probably know where it is then, yes. All right, thank you.
He says sometimes those Greens drink there too.
Thanks, son. Well, you don't go telling any of this business to any of those green men. We'll take it from here.
I'm not telling them nothing. I like living. And
All right, son.
He's sitting down drinking the food or whatever she brought from the soup.
Right. Well, Fletch, I won't worry too much about the income. Half hour, you working as a fancy table at Aunt Vi's, you're going to make up on this one anyway. But I think it's worthwhile taking a look into this. I mean, it's worth it. Like
You never know what's going to happen. We can all be dead tomorrow if we get involved with real criminals.
Well, let's let the little lad go, and I'd like a word.
Yes, Mr. Levi, why don't you take him into the kitchen?
All right. Miss Levi, takes them by the arm and brings them into the kitchen, gets them dried up, gives them some food, and leaves you alone.
All right.
Right. Well, look, what's of interest to me, it just occurs to me, and while I'm talking, I'm going to go over to the gun cabinet, the battery, as it's called. Didn't they say they were involved with the Irish anarchists?
Well, Hudson and Brown
We're
were.
talking about Hudson.
That was the subject of their last investigation.
Right. Yeah. And now we got potentially an Irish
gang
family getting involved here. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, come, Bull. Half the cases we have involve the Irish in some way or another.
Well, that's right. But here we got a direct link. You know what I'm saying?
I'm afraid the truth may be
They came to Hudson and Brand, right? This lad came up here. They've been talking. I'm thinking it's quite possible, and I could be corrected on this, that they were investigating the Irish anarchists. This is where they got in with Bill, Bare Knuckle Bill here. They got to talk to Albie about these guys being here and to come here if there was any problems. So I think there's a little bit of a tenuous link here.
I'd like to find some evidence of that. There should be something in this building.
Well, there either be something here, and we might pick up a little bit down there at the Elephant and Castle, by the way, which has got a very good reputation for its variety of beers.
Well, we ought to be careful, or at least sensitive in the way we inquire about this. A undefeated prize fighter suddenly loses his first fight and is visited by one of the most notorious gambling rings in all of London. I think the truth may be simpler than we think.
It actually...
And Bill points to his face. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The pattern doesn't fit the profile, though. You know, if Bare Knuckle Bill was winning all of his fights, I could see the concept of possibly getting him to throw a fight so that somebody would make a huge profit. However, he lost the fight, and they took him away. That actually doesn't make sense. Now, if he won the fight, but the mobsters had told him to lose the fight, then I could see the difference. I could see them taking him away. But what reason would they have for taking Bare Knuckle Bill away?
Well, we're certainly short a few facts, but there could be another gang involved as well.
Right, and I'm thinking if we go down the old Elephant and Castle there, we can go down there, we can talk to the likely lads there who actually watched the fight, and they can tell us what happened.
Well, we won't know until we start to investigate.
Right, yeah, exactly. Pick up a few leads.
Let's see if we can find everything we can here on Bare Knuckle Bill, his previous wins.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mr. Brand was always very... he always thought the first step was to name the case. So I'm wondering what we should name this investigation.
The unusual case of Bare Knuckle Bill?
Yes.
Sounds more like we're all curious to me.
Splendid.
It is a curious case. Rather unusual also.
Curious case of Bare Knuckle Bill. That way we can publish it. Yes, Ulysses would be quite happy with that.
All right. Now, getting back to the Bull's inquiry of the gun cabinet. As you guys have been talking this, and then you said the case of Bill, he opens this cabinet up, and everybody's eyes just kind of light up at the cabinet contains a vast number of weapons. A sharp number 11, sharp A1 repeater, an Adams MK3 revolver, a Webley number 2 pocket revolver, a pair of Webley different type of Webley pocket revolver, 2 green hammerless shotguns, a double keeper's gun, Spencer's repeating shotgun. I could send a list out later. I mean, the list goes on and on. So basically,
whatever we need.
Whatever you need is in there.
You'd think we'd gotten ourselves into trouble once or twice in the past.
I'm guessing there's plenty of ammunition corresponding.
Oh, who broke the nunchucks? Oh, that was that big guy. That's right.
The butler, he goes, well, this is just the gun cabinet. The hand weapons are downstairs in the trophy room, well, along with the ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, we don't need any guns at the moment.
I'm just saying because Bull had opened it up, so I figured I'd let you know about that next rule.
Well, he's happy with that. It's kind of like you never know when you need a barker or two, eh? Especially them boomers over there.
So would you plan on heading over to the...
Well, did any of the guys want to go through any of the files and stuff?
Yes, let's look around here
That's
first.
out of Bull's league.
I'd like to see some evidence of some sort of relationship between Bare Knuckle Bill and Ulysses.
We should hit up Bare Knuckle Bill's place soon, though, so any evidence that might be fleeting could be caught up with sooner rather than later.
There does seem to be three main connection points. Obviously, if there's any connection between our former employers and Bare Knuckle Bill himself, his apartment, and the castle. What was it?
Elephant and Castle.
Yep. So those seem to be the primary targets. We stay together, or do we split up and investigate them individually?
What's the weather like outside?
I was going to say it's 12 o'clock, lunchtime. It is raining, not on thunderstorm, but a steady rainfall. And it's chilly.
I'd be more than willing to go over to the apartment, but I thought that before I'd leave, I'd start looking through the newspapers to see if there's any sort of mention of the bill, the boxing match, the greens, anything current.
Well, let me make this proposal. Why don't we go do our day stuff now, and we can spend some time this evening when it gets really cold and go through the office here and see what we can find.
A wonderful suggestion.
Good call.
Well, gentlemen, I think we don't want to hit all these places. What was the name of that guy who was fighting? Johnny?
Johnny Power.
Did we get an address?
No.
Johnny Power? No.
All right.
If he was involved with the greens, Albie said that we may be able to stumble upon them at the Elephant and Castle.
Right. Well, I'm thinking we'll figure out who his club or his gym as well, where he's coming out of, see who his manager is as well. I'll tell you what, I'm thinking it's coming up for lunchtime. I'm going to go ahead and get myself over to the Elephant and Castle because I'm thinking right about now is when all the jabber and that is going to be going on.
Well, I certainly wouldn't.
The boys have had their night out. They've had their morning's work. They're in there for a quick one for lunch.
Well,
Time to go.
Well, Bull, I certainly wouldn't let you head to the pub alone.
Well, yeah, I need looking after.
well, if that's what you'd like to do this time of the morning, the time of the day, but wouldn't you much rather go over to Mr. Bill's apartment and his home? And
Well, that's what I'm saying. Us will go over there. You could go over there. Do you see what I'm saying? That way
you're talking about splitting the party.
Yeah, that's it. Because you get one of them TPKs coming up.
Sorry.
Mr. Brand was always keen on splitting the party, but Mr. Hudson said never split the party.
And
Well, I suppose the main thing is we have a party, right?
All right, then.
Why don't I stop at the Elephant Castle and some of us get off there and the rest go to I'll go with the rest to the apartment.
That sounds acceptable. I'd like to go to the apartment.
Apartment here.
Okay, gentlemen, I'll get the cab ready. And I'll leave
yeah.
and go get it ready.
Oh, and just a side note, you guys are at 33 Golden Square. 32 Golden Square is a doctor's office and medical facility.
Ah, yes. Do we have a name for the doctor who patches us up?
I'll get it for you after. It's
Dr. Patch us up.
Yep. But all right, so who's going to which location?
Bill's.
I'll be with Bill's will be the second place. I'll drop the other two off at the Elephant Castle, and then I'll go to Bill's.
So
All right.
Ben and Henry are going to go to the pub.
Correct.
All right, so you all get into the cab. It'll be the Elephant and Castle first, is the closer location than the apartment. So just let me set the scene a little here. You all climb in. It's raining, it's a dreary day. And London, 1889, the city shrouded in a dun-colored veil. And nighttime streets alive with muffled gaiety and the half-seen movements of those going about their business, best not asked about. During the day, it's a bustle of crowds and carts, hawkers shouting their wares, and church bells pealing. The place is full of life and all its guises, with languages and beliefs from across the globe. Even the gods of the dark corners of the earth are represented somewhere here, though often out of sight and out of the common man's eye. Being the center of the greatest empire of its age, it attracts all types, and not all of them have the empire's best interest at heart. In fact, some of them may use any and all means at their disposal to inflict harm on Her Majesty's realm.
Bullocks. All right.
Sorry,
So we arrive at the Elephant and Castle, and we let those two out.
All right. You want me to continue with them, or do you want me to do the apartment first? You guys
You're
choose.
the GM. You choose. They get to their destination first. So.
First. All right. So you guys go in, and it's busy. Hustle and bustle. People drinking. Some people they serve food, so there's people eating their lunch, and maybe 20, 30 people inside, and there's a few people outside. What would you like to do?
Well, basically, I'm just going to be wandering in there, getting myself a beer, and who's with me?
It's me.
Benedict.
Yep.
The tech. But you know what? We're going to look like Holmes and Watson, because that's the set of Norfolks that Watson wears.
You're a very burly Watson.
Yeah. So I'm thinking we just want to hang around a little bit and let the old King Lear, the heir, take care of the business. See what's been going on for a while.
I agree with that. Why don't we go ahead and pull up and grab a pint and just kind of take in our surroundings first.
And I scored an 45 on spot hiddens or listens.
I was going to say both of you make spot hidden or listen. Well, you're hearing, definitely talk of him losing the fight. People are stunned. They can't believe that he actually lost the fight. Other people are just talking about the weather. But the group is like three men. You see him standing at the bar, I should say, and over a pint. And they're just, they're dumbfounded, shocked that he lost the fight.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to engage them in some conversation. Yes. Well, yeah, it does seem rather odd, doesn't it? I mean, did you actually watch the fight? Anybody here actually watch the fight?
Well, I didn't see the fight, but and then he hits his mate, on the shoulder. Old Chuck here, he saw it, and the guy's pretty drunk. He's like, I couldn't believe it. We were over at the old cooperage and watching the fight last night, and day before yesterday, actually. I'm sorry, and I lost almost a week's wages on that.
Well, when did he go down? Are we talking like he walked in, fell down, or was he up there for an hour and a half?
No, it was like 2 hours and 2.5 hours into it. It was like the 39th round.
Well, that sounds about right. I mean, was Bill slowing down?
He just got distracted for a second, and boom, a haymaker. Knocked him right off his feet.
Went out on a haymaker, right? I mean, I could understand if somebody got in there with a nice sharp jab or a haymaker. He must have dropped his guard big time.
Yeah. It was almost like he got distracted.
Oh, like he stopped thinking? Because, I mean, I know that happens when you get a little bit rattled around in there later in the game. But or was he kind of like looking at something?
He might have been looking at something. All I know is Yeah, now that you say it, he kind of like looked back and he just caught him and he went down like a sack of potatoes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what? His second wasn't up there, was he? Because sometimes when they yell out on their seconds and stuff like that, you hear that voice behind you. You kind of like look round. I mean, was there anybody up there?
No, there was nobody up on in the ring with him, but you know, I was heavy into my cups at the time, but
Well, yeah.
What was,
But
what,
how was he doing up until he got hit?
he was winning like always.
what was the scene like after the fight? I'm assuming everybody was it's probably a pretty raucous crowd at that point.
It never heard it so quiet in the cooperage in my whole life.
Really?
You could hear a mouse fart. Dead silent, except for the bet takers.
I'm
Oh,
sure.
yeah, they must have been right out. What were the odds on Johnny there?
I think it was 22-1.
Somebody made a mint.
I'd say so.
And of course, everybody was betting on Bill, so he had short odds. So there was a chunk of change lying around there.
Somebody lost a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of odd. I've got to admit, it's kind of like right out of hand. I mean, that's some bad friar tuck there right now. That's not good. I'm going to do a a charm roll to see if I can get them to open up a little bit more.
Add a bonus dice because they're all well into their drinks.
Okie doke. 37, which is a hard for me, I think.
And what are you going for? Like, what are you trying to?
Well, trying to get a real description of the moment that it happened. You know, it was coming up there, we're ducking and diving. He's been doing all this stuff. In fact, I'll tell you how it happens. Well, you know, I'm thinking that Bill, I mean, he's a handy lad. He knows the Holy Trinity. Do you know the Holy Trinity?
No.
Oh, well, that's where you got your footwork. You know, that's the first part of it. He says, my dad taught me that. He said, what's your footwork? Right? And then you go up for your hitting. You got to get your hitting hard. And I'll actually bang into the wall beside him a couple of times. And then it's all a matter of time where you match your footwork and you're hitting to get the guy. And you whack into it like that. See, and my dad said, if you learn these three things, my son, you will inherit the earth as surely as the meek. Now, thinking about all that, what actually happened? What was he doing just before he turns round? What was going on?
It's almost as if he turned to look and came back and got caught right in the temple. And dropped like I said, dropped like a sack of potatoes.
Right, and I'll have them describe the ring, or the fight area, I should say. Well, and so we know the directions within the cooperage where they were at the instant of.
More than likely, you've been to the cooperage to watch or bet on some fights, as well as Fletcher. Probably most of you at some point have been there. And it's called the Old Cooperage, and it's a outside warehouse, whereas it's like a rectangle. And you'd have the main front gates where carts can go in to load up. It would be maybe an old masonry. You believe it to be an old masonry factory. And ring with the 4 barrels and the ropes. Rings raised just slightly, maybe 2 feet, 3 feet off the ground. You don't know what's in any of the other rooms, but the crowd, filters in through the front gate. There's a back gate. And benches sitting, lining around.
So
but you've been to the cooperage.
I'll actually interject and say, did you gentlemen happen to stop here for a beer afterwards?
No. I was so mad, I just went home.
Well, it's a shame. And do you gentlemen come here for a pint often?
Oh, every day.
Well, very good. So certainly you may have come across from time to time a couple of the green fellows running around here.
Excuse me. and he takes his drink and walks past you, and the other two guys turn their backs and go to the bar. I'm gonna pay my tab here.
And I'm going to do exactly what they do and kind of like turn my back on Ben. Bloody hell, there's always somebody got his north and south running, and he, oh, bloody hell. I'm talking to the guy next to me who's kind of like ducking into his beer.
Yeah.
Tell you what, some people just don't have the nous for it, do they? In other words, I'm kind of, you know me, I'm putting it on.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll go ahead and give up on that line of questioning and go ahead and just order myself another beer until those gentlemen are out of earshot.
All right, so you step up to the bar to order, and it's like you're the plague. They just slide down the bar as far as they can away from you.
I can smell a detective a mile away. So I'll go ahead and order a drink. Will they even serve me at this point?
Oh, the bartender walks over. What do you have? And they have all. Yeah, he pours you a stout, plops it down, takes the coin, goes about his business. It's like
Perfect. Yeah. So at this point, obviously the line of questioning shot. So I guess I'll just kind of wait and quietly sip my beer and continue to listen around.
All right.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say let's cut to the other group right now, and the driver, you're pulling up to the place of Bill's home, and you just spot right in front. You park your cab right there. You hitch up your horse to a hitching post, and you know the address where it was as soon as the boy told it to you.
What's it look like? Is it a house?
It's an apartment. It's a like I don't want to say a flop house, but like a room rental.
Okay.
But it's not horrible. It's in a halfway decent area.
All right.
Would he be in a rental room or an individual apartment?
It's a individual room apartment.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be like one large, maybe 12 by 8 room.
It's a single bedroom.
Correct.
Getting out of the carriage, does it look like anyone's sort of paying particular notice to us, or
make a roll? Do a spot hidden.
Ooh, 06.
You look around, and you don't seem to see any shady characters around. You don't see anybody around, just people going about their business. And it's a little flight of stairs up to a door, a little sign, rooms for rent by the day or the week.
And we know which room he stays in?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, you would have to knock on the front door or get somebody, you don't have a key to his room.
I don't need a key, please.
Oh.
Last time
should we find let's go find him. He's probably in there drunk.
Let's hope.
I'm sorry, but he's probably in there drunk. He's
probably passed out.
You think that he actually is still here?
Yes.
Yes.
Until he's proven missing. I'll start walking towards it and try and make entrance and go to his room.
I'm right behind you.
Go up a little flight of stairs, open the door, and it leads to basically straight down to a hallway. And as you take a few steps in, you see a little barred window and a gentleman sitting there. Can I help you?
Sir, are you the proprietor of this establishment?
Yes, I am Sam. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
You said Sam, and then you stopped.
Yeah, I heard popping in my phone. Sam Smith, proprietor.
Mr. Smith, we're looking for Bare Knuckle Bill.
I haven't seen him in 2 days. Not since the night of the fight.
Yeah, a friend of his is very concerned about him and asked us to look in on him. Is there, which room is it?
He's in room 6, but like I told you, he's not here.
This is very odd. Would you care to open the door for us so that we can check on his well-being?
I mean, my tenants are, they stay here because they know it's a safe place. You just walk in off the street and and he's blatantly asking for a bribe.
Yeah, I will push some coins under the over to him.
He picks them up. This will buy you 2 minutes.
Well, I mean, we can renegotiate after 2 minutes.
Let's negotiate now for 10 minutes. All right. He takes
I'll pass him a little bit more money.
All right. He hands you the key and he goes, 10 minutes. Give me the key back. Down the hall. Past me on your left.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'll head down there to the door.
What a waste. We could have done all this without spending a single dime. Cents. Hey, penny.
Next time you'll be in charge. It costs me nothing. I'll go and open the door.
All right, so you open the door, and the shades are open, and there's a few bottles of open beer on the floor. There's a mattress, a little dresser, a set of clothes hanging up, like a nicer set of, a shirt and pants hanging up. There's cotton balls and hand wraps on the floor.
Well, we're going to look specifically for anything that might be.
Wait! Don't go in, Kane. Mr. Allerton has always told us, observe the space before we go in. Really observe the space. Don't go in just yet. I'm going to look closely at everything I can see.
Anything disturbed? Harshly roughed up?
Not at all.
Make note of the cotton balls.
I've counted 5.
Fascinating.
Do you guys go into the room yet, or?
Well, I'm waiting for the permission to explore the room.
Wait, let me finish drawing. Okay, I'm ready.
I'm looking for anything of use. A journal. I don't even know if he knew how to write.
There is the only thing that really stands out is there's a plate, cleaned with a knife and a fork, some beer bottles, and a crumpled paper.
What does the paper say?
Yeah.
What's there?
Grab the paper.
Pick it up and then, unwrinkle it. And it says, "Bill, do us proud or you'll be having to deal with the lady." And it's signed with an O at the bottom. Like an initial, like if you would, just sign your first letter of your name.
Now, this sounds very strange.
Well, it doesn't sound very good for Bill.
And is he punished because he lost the fight?
Yeah, apparently if someone placed a large enough bet on him, they may want to just exact petty revenge.
Except that they sent him a note.
It is odd. This is a curious case, Mr. Kane.
The lady.
The lady. So there's some wealthy woman involved, perhaps.
Who's hired these Irish henchmen?
Well, we don't know that they had anything to do with it. There's still not enough evidence to make any conclusions. Let's continue looking around the room, see if there's anything interesting.
You can spend as long as you want here. There's nothing else that would raise an eyebrow other
right.
than, you know.
I'll spend the full 10 minutes.
Yep. And then as soon as the 10 minutes pass, you see a knock on the door frame and, gentlemen,
Mr. Smith, we're done.
I
Thank
bid you
you.
good day. I take my tenants' security and privacy to the utmost. Have a good day.
Do you recall any visitors that he's had?
Not too sure. And you know, he's kind of.
I'll look at Fletcher.
Fletcher.
You've already ruined the grift.
A true grifter would have taken over. Here, hand him another bill. What do you know, Smith?
There was a beast of a man came here. Guess it was the day before the fight. Had a couple of little lackeys trailing behind him, like he was somebody. I don't know. He just big ugly mug of a guy. And that kid, some you know, little kid, always around here.
That would be Albie.
Albie,
yeah. Yeah, Aaron, that was his name. Yeah, you got it.
Well, I think that we've seen everything that we came here to see. I am going to attempt to get some of our cash back.
I knew you were going to say that. Make a roll.
Sleight of hand?
Yeah.
I got 39 out of 70.
Nice. Describe how you do this.
I shake his hand. You know,
Mhm.
I say, well, thank you very much for your hospitality, and we'll if we ever need to stay anywhere, we'll take a look into your establishment.
So you
I take his fucking watch too.
exactly what I was gonna say. Not only did you get a couple of the coins, but you got a silver pocket watch that was hanging in his vest pocket. All right. So you walk out and you're like, "Thank you, guys," and you're dangling the little watch.
No, I don't dangle it, for crying out loud.
All right. So let me cut back to the castle, Elephant and Castle, real quick. What were you gentlemen doing there, Benedict and Bull?
So we were waiting and keeping an eye on things around. Is there any way we can make an additional listen roll or spot hidden to see anything that's out of the ordinary?
Well,
Irish accents.
unfortunately for Benedict, any place you kind of go in the bar, people kind of seem to you said it's like saying going into an Italian restaurant and say, "Where's the mafia?" So
I'll look at Bull on this one and say, I guess you're on your own on this one if we want to get any additional information out of these folks.
Well, basically, knowing a little bit, would I know the general area of London that the Greens would be notorious for being in? I mean, obviously they travel around, but they're pretty kind of patch conscious.
You do know that around the cooperage, they seem to be seen a lot. They do come in here to drink fairly regularly in the castle and Elephant and Castle,
Mm-hmm.
and they just run all prostitution and gambling, money lending, and with this, the bartender kind of like gives you Bull, kind of come here. Like, waves you in a little, like, he's like, it's not a secret that you came in here with that posh gentleman over there, but I wouldn't be asking about the Greens in here. And there were a couple of them in here about 15-20 minutes before you came in. I'm sure as soon as they're back, they're going to hear from one of these lowlives that they've been asked about or mentioned in here. So I wouldn't want to be here when they might come walking through the door any minute. I'm just saying, I'm a bartender. I don't know much. And then he turns around and goes back to polishing his glasses.
Well, Bull fully understands what's going on in this general area here like that. So it's kind of like, I'm looking for, well, maybe I'm looking to do business with them. Who knows? But it's kind of like, oh, you know what? I think we'll just take a little ball and chalk out of here, Ben. It's time for us to move on. I'm thinking a little bit down the road would be a good idea to go. This is a keeper's question. Does this, the Greens, do they in any way where some of them would tend to, the villains, the family villains and stuff like that, used to tend to adopt a marker of some kind, you know, like they wear a top hat or a bow or... the Greens might wear a bit of green ribbon or something. I don't know.
You're not entirely sure. You might need to do some more investigation on that. But you, off the top of your head, you can't pick it out one from another right now.
Okay, that's not a particular problem. And I think once we're outside and we're kind of like deciding what to do, I'm thinking a little bit of a stroll over to the cooperage is in order.
All right.
Certainly.
I've got a professional interest and a little bit of nostalgia.
Very good.
So
I'll head over there with Bull.
You've been in, you were in the bar, let's say about an hour and a half total. You had a pint or whatnot. So by this time, the cab will be heading back your way. You figure they should be around any minute. So back to the other group.
Well, gentlemen, you can see, here's your money back.
Mr. Kane, thank you very much.
And Reed, here, you can have this.
Yeah. Oh. Ha. Thank you.
It, of course, doesn't match the gold one that I have in my pocket.
You have some good talents there.
Yes, this has been in my family ever since I stole it from someone.
This really doesn't look good for Bill at this point. Maybe we should tell the others.
Well, we're going to go pick them up, aren't we?
I don't have anywhere else to go. I suggest we go over there.
Let's go find out what they found out.
Good call.
Yeah, since it only took you guys maybe 20 minutes total looking in Bill's lodgings. By the time you're rolling back, they'll be walking out of the bar, or if not in front of the bar, discussing what they're going to be doing next.
Well, gentlemen, what did you find out?
Well, we were on a bit of a decent questioning tear until my loudmouth got the better of me, and I asked directly about the Greens. Wasn't much more to gain after that.
Well, I think you should see this note. It tends to confirm some sort of foul play is underfoot.
Yes, there's somebody here with the initial O and the threat of some woman. Now, that's highly unusual.
Did you keep the note?
Yes, we have it.
Okay. Well, can you read it to Bull, please?
Jason, can you read the note again?
Oh, sorry. It says, Bill, do us proud, or you'll be having words with the lady. And it's signed O.
Right. Well, that would save me half an hour reading it for myself. Much obliged.
Gentlemen,
I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, do us proud, and then he loses a fight. So they were putting the money or whatever they were doing on his win. And we've picked up, he didn't actually throw the fight. He got distracted and then clobbered. So It's kind of like we've got two groups here. We've got the ones who wanted him to win, do us proud, or else, which means he was under a lot of pressure. And then 2, somebody else didn't want him to win, throw the fight. So which side is which, I don't know. But I'm thinking that O and that little group have got nothing to do with the Greens. Or maybe they have, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the individuals who were described as delivering the note were a large, brutish man and 2 somewhat nondescript lackeys.
Right, which is kind of like what Albie said, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's odd that in that he's not really threatened with anything other than having words with the woman. There's no threat of immediate violence, or it just is very. It is very.
At that, Bill starts to chuckle. Well, it all depends where you come from. Because if you and I was to have words, as you see him bunch his fist up and crack them, we ain't talking about words.
No, I know that. I know it's a very obvious thing, but it's just an odd way of putting it, and he's being threatened with some woman.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Gentlemen, if I may express my observation, it's bothered me ever since we first read the letter, the note, the phraseology of the whole thing. Part of what you said a moment ago, Henry, has sort of spurred that on when you said "do us proud," and then now you're talking about semantics. When you say the phrase "do us proud," it doesn't sound. It sounds like something a member of your family would say.
Right, exactly.
Or perhaps if you belong to some sort of a group.
Right, yeah.
One of your comrades would say,
well,
do us proud.
What's his name was in the military. So you do your unit proud. I'd do my family proud. I'd do my muckers proud. You know what I'm saying?
So this threat of some lady and do us proud, could they be referring to somebody that Bare Knuckle Bill was actually involved with as far as family, or was he involved in a gang?
You do know that Bare Knuckle Bill is 100% English. So for him to be running around with an Irish gang is probably not.
Probably not. And a lady, it's the term lady. That implies more than just a woman. That implies somebody of an authority who is a lady.
Nah, it could go either way there. I'll tell you now, look, I've got a little paramour myself, and that's Lady May. Long story short, it's a lot of fun. However, the way I'm looking at it, it's kind of like you'll see the lady like she's the boss or the person in charge, like even like my Auntie Vi. So I'm thinking that if we look at it in the positive, do us proud, go for the win, we're behind you, or you'll have to talk to the lady. Could be a little bit of familial trouble, or she's the head, as you said, of something, right?
Yes, but if you're talking about that sort of relationship, it doesn't sound like much of a threat, does it? I mean, if I have to talk to my Aunt Gertie, if I screw up, it's like, but if I'm being threatened in some way by having to talk to the lady, it sounds more like somebody with authority over me, somebody that I don't want to talk to.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're thinking Lascars and Irish around here. I mean, what about the Orientals? I mean, a lot of them Oriental ladies there, I mean, they're the money behind the old puff bars.
Yes, perhaps.
Perhaps if we head back to 33 Golden Square, we might be able to dig up some notes or such that Hudson and Brad might have been working on that might start connecting some of these dots.
Well, I thought perhaps we were going to go by the cooperage, but
oh yes,
during the day, isn't the cooperage a cooperage? We'll just find people working there.
Well, why don't we ride on by and have a look?
You can't tell.
I'll take us right away.
All right, about 10-minute trip, give or take. You guys ride around, and it's series of warehouses, and the cooperage is sort of separated. So there's a big a lot next to it, and you see some kids playing soccer, kicking a ball around. Right next to that lot is some tenement apartments and some washerwomen outside washing clothes, and it's looks like the cooperage would be like 2 stories, but it seems like it's only a wall. You don't think that it's a full 2-story building. It's an open roof concept, and there's 2 large front gates that would open for the carts to go in and out. Seems to be a smaller back gate, but still enough room for carriage to go in and out. Only one at a time there.
Are there people working there?
You see a couple men hanging out in the front gate and a couple men hanging out the back gate, smoking cigarettes and drinking, but it doesn't look to be operational. And
is the ring set up in the square?
well, you would have to look through the gates.
We'd have to go inside.
And from thinking about it from the past, you don't remember when you've been in there. There's always been a ring set up. You're not really sure if the cooperage is actually a cooperage or not.
Well, am I wrong in thinking that this kind of fight and gambling on it is illegal at the time?
Correct.
No, if he was doing the London prize ring, it'd be a legal fight.
Yeah, you wouldn't be at the cooperage.
Right.
They do them on spec all over the place.
Guys, make an education roll.
Me too.
02?
Yeah.
I've picked up a 14. I've actually passed my education.
Well, you thinking, well, we've been there, we've bet there at some point. The cooperage, it's probably just a front.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically,
The only people that they don't show up here are uniformed policemen.
Correct.
The gentleman out front guarding the gate, I guess that's my question. Are they guarding the gate actively, like standing a post, or are they just kind of lounging about?
Well, they're leaning up against. They look like they're guarding it, but they're not military guarding. They look like they could be possible gang members or street.
If this is green territory, we don't want to call any attention to ourselves.
With that,
my suggestion.
With that 02 too, you might even think they might even be greens there.
It's possible. Any of them redheads?
They seem to actually, now that you're looking at it, taking a little closer look without being too obvious, they seem to have shaved heads too, or stubble.
After the reception we just got at the local watering hole, I think that doesn't make much sense to walk straight up and begin to inquire as to their business.
Kind of like Benedict's haircut there.
Actually, with a little bit of street smarts, I'm going to poke. Who owns the cab?
Leland.
Yeah,
move on, Leland, now.
It's a good idea.
And I'm going to also roll a 21 on a spot hidden. I want to see if any of these guys are wearing some item on their person other than their shaved heads that kind of identify them as being together in the same group, organization.
You don't see anything. You don't see anything visible.
Right. And my hair's the same. I've got short cropped hair.
Yeah, and that's, street fighting. There's nothing to grab onto, so.
Right.
But you don't see anything visible on them that would lead to.
So, as long as Layla moves off, we're good.
Yes. Let's go back to Golden Square.
Agreed.
Green Square? Golden Square.
Cool. So you guys are going back
Golden
to
Square.
33? It's going back to Golden Square? Or did...
Yeah, unless someone has a better idea, I'll just go back to 33 Golden Square.
All right. So the cab arrives. Bring it around back. There's a little place for you to store your carriage and your horses.
It's almost tea time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about 4 o'clock, 3:30 maybe.
Oh, late tiffin then.
We'll see if Miss Levi has made any cookies or anything. Oh, wait. We don't call them cookies here, do we? We call them
Biscuits.
biscuits.
As you guys go in, you're going into the
I'll
agency.
probably be last since I have to take care of the horses.
All right. You guys walk in, and like clockwork, Mrs. Levi comes out with steaming hot tea, biscuits, little finger sandwiches. Nothing too fancy, but a nice day of investigating, boys. And she puts it down on the table, and she just stands there at attention.
Quite. Thank you. Markham, after we have our tea, I think that we're going to need to go through Mr. Hudson and Mr. Brand's effects through the house. We already have a case we're working on, and we're going to be needing evidence. So if there's any keys involved with their files or anything like that, we leave those available to us, if you don't mind.
Malcolm steps up, and he's like, well, the key to the ammunition, I have that. I know the combination to any safes that are in the house if you need access to them. Like I said, there is the weaponry, there is the trophy room, there is the two misters' personal bedrooms.
And their offices, I hope.
And their offices, correct.
Yes. We'll spend most of our time in their offices, I'm sure.
Oh, right.
I'll get the combinations from you if I need them.
Excellent, sir. So what do you want to look into? Like I said, there is a little library. There is every newspaper that you can think of.
Well, Leland, you were interested in looking at some of the newspapers, and
Yes, I think that'll be the subject of my inquiry this evening. I'll try and find something up to date, maybe on this fight or the Greens. So I'll start going through the newspapers.
yes, anything involved. I likewise, but not the newspapers. I'll look through their files and see if I can find any dirt on the Greens, or if Bare Knuckle Bill comes up in any context.
For the newspapers, make a library check.
Successful.
All right, so you find in a local paper, it talks about the Greens and their suspected links with the Fenian movement, which is an Irish anarchist group that is trying to separatists. And then it goes into talking a little bit about the Greens, how they run prostitution and gambling, and turning them into a monster, basically. Not them turning into monsters. I mean, demonizing them.
As a cab driver for quite a while in London, would I have any contacts with the police?
Yes, absolutely. Your contact would be Sergeant Parlow, Parlow. I think Reed, with his military background, would also be in good with Parlow.
Carlo, yeah, that makes sense.
I am not.
Oh, they know about you, but they just no.
I'll share what I've found in the newspapers. And Mr. Reed, I think our friend, the Sergeant Parlow, maybe at some point tomorrow we should contact him.
Actually, yes, he'll be in tomorrow. I saw him last week. It'll be good to catch up.
Yes, I think that would be a good thing. And I'll go back to the papers and keep working on that.
All right.
And while they've been doing that, I'm going to actually wander around and probably end up eventually in the games room
Okay.
while they're doing all the reading. However, I shall stop off almost certainly at the tool cabinet,
Okay.
the cellar battery, and the workshop. Picking up a few items here and there, putting them in my pockets where I need to. And yeah, basically I've picked up from the tool cabinet, I picked up a short jimmy, maybe 14, 15 inches long. Okay, I'm going to use that as my life preserver, which I'm going to hook inside my coat. And I'm going to pick up a couple of knives and a set of nice pair of brass knuckles. And that'd probably be it. I'm not too sure I want to pick up a barker just yet.
We're going to sleep in those things. We're here for the evening, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, but I've got a mind on something.
All right.
And I think I'm also, as I said, I'm going to end up in the games room. But before I do that, I'm actually going to go up to or into Mr. Brand's room. I just want to take a long, slow look around.
All right. And just so you know, in the games room, there is all sorts of exotic weaponry on the wall, from African spears to curved swords. And I'll get you guys a list sent out if you want to equip yourselves for next time. But yeah, basically there's quite a few items in there. And which room did you want to wind up in? I'm sorry.
Well, I'll eventually end up in the games room, but I'm checking out Mr. Brand's room. I want to take a good look in there. And if it's any use to you, I rolled a 08.
Nice. You're talking about room 23, correct?
Mr. Brand's room is 21, and then Mr. Hudson's room is 23.
Oh, I see it there. Sorry. Give me one sec. Talk amongst yourselves for one moment.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Allerton, how are you today?
No, you know what I mean.
Mr. Fletcher, were you going to take a look at the saves, or did you have any plan to do that?
Yes. I'll see what's in there. I don't think there's going to be anything more valuable than some paperwork, but
certainly not. It's been bothering me a bit, this connection with that Bill sent Albie directly to us. I mean, certainly he was a friend of Ulysses, or some connection there, right?
it must have been. I mean, how else would the boy even know that we existed?
Yeah, I'm just curious if they would have kept any record of it. And
I just recalled something odd. Did not Mr. Smith refer to the boy as Aaron?
He did.
And
yes,
yet,
I didn't.
Albie.
Yes, I decided not to make note of it. It didn't seem like it. You think that there's something more to that?
I don't know.
Maybe a nickname, Aldi or Albie.
Or you could take
Not
that
forever.
as him being just uncaring about anybody that comes and goes there.
That's possible.
Aaron, Albie, Aldi, what something.
Yeah, that's exactly how yeah, that kid, Aaron Albie, he was just kind of being dismissive of the kid because he's a nuisance.
Well, the voice in my head is telling me that it's not important, so never mind.
Now, Bull, when you what did you roll? A spot hidden? You said you got a
08.
All right, so you start taking in the room, and for some reason you get down and look under the bed, and you notice a loose floorboard, and you pry it open, and there is a small bag stuffed with 50 pounds in notes, a switchblade, a cheap bottle of whiskey, and a box of matches.
Oh, fire making equipment. Lovely. Okay. I'm going to say, you might want to take a look around, boys. There's odd stuff around. Take a look at that. We got £50 on the case already.
Are we all just yelling at each other from different?
No, I'm just wandering around. I can't. My reading and writing skills are not very high, so you read and write. I look and see.
Bull. If you found £50, then that's got to go towards the upkeep of the place.
Well, the finger sandwiches we've been consuming.
Now, Fletcher, you said you were going to check out his office, correct?
Correct.
Now you find a ledger on the desk, and it shows that they, with the building, they actually do own it, and that the other floors are rental properties. So you have an income of X amount of dollars coming in.
Gentlemen,
Very nice.
we haven't been collecting rent for the last 6 months. I think the people upstairs owe us quite a bit of cash.
Malcolm steps up and he's like, "Oh, yes, we have, sir. I've taken care of all of that."
Oh, thank God, Malcolm. You're a lifesaver.
Malcolm, how do the books look? How do we look? Are we solvent?
I don't know how to do math. Do any of you good with numbers?
What is Malcolm? What does things look like? You've been taking rent, or you've been maintaining the books?
And now the lady of the house steps up and she clears her throat. I've been taking care of everything. Everything is paid off. You are not in the red. Although if you do not have cases coming in soon, I would give it 4 months.
Oh, I guess we have £50.
The rent of the upstairs apartments more than takes care of the building, but they let it
eat. Yes.
Extravagant lifestyles. And then she points to the weapons cabinet where and
Yes, we do have to replace the nunchucks. I mentioned that earlier. I'm going to try my hand at opening one of the safes. I mean, how many safes are there? Just one?
there's 2 safes.
Okay, I'll go to the first one. Are these wall safes or are these big floor safes?
Well, Malcolm says, would you like me to show you where they are?
Oh, well, sure. I thought we knew. Okay.
Well, that they had a safe, and it was
So
listed.
they're hidden wall safes? Okay.
Yeah, there's one in his room, in room 23.
Okay.
And it's
That's where I'll
behind
go first.
a bookshelf, and he pulls a book out and it slides over, and it's a really big safe.
Let's do that one first. But
right.
Don't tell me the combo.
All right, he's just standing there, You need a hard success.
Locksmith, is that what I roll?
Correct.
Hard success. Hey, boys, I got a 70 in locksmithing, so. And I got 17.
Nice. All right, so when you open it up, there is a statue of a Buddha. Mm-hmm.
Made out of gold?
It's you could make a roll. You don't really. It's kind of green, but you're not. You can't pick out the stone. And
Can I use appraise?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can always bite it.
99. So I really don't.
It's £1 million, at least £1 million.
I have no idea what that's worth.
But it's rather cool to the touch. There is also a few stacks of pound notes.
Got a little bit of money in here.
There is. I'll continue.
A few more bits of cash. Strange statue. And oh, look at this, Jason.
Like I said, the book has you. Nothing is in. You got to flip flop through the whole thing to find any of the There are some tablets. Very small, jet black in color, perfectly smooth stones, the size of a man's finger joint.
Gentlemen, with the stuff that our friends have gotten themselves into, I'm suddenly of the opinion that I don't want to touch any of these things. I mean, the documents, perhaps, read through them, but why would they put these little stones in here if they were not dangerous or extremely valuable?
Probably a wise decision, given some of the activities our cohorts have been through over the years.
There's also a coiled serpent made of metal, copper.
Would any of older folklore knowledge at all see any similarities here? Would there be any sort of connection maybe made?
Make a roll.
Perhaps in the library we can find out something.
Oh, no. Not with that. Or for 73.
And there's a couple other items in there, but another one that stands out is a gold ring with an Egyptian hieroglyphic seal on it.
Any paperwork? Like you said, there were notepads?
Yeah, there is some notepads if you want to spend a quantity of time reading them. But if you want to just skim it real quick.
Well, what I'll do is I'll sort of skim it real quick to see what they are. If they've got a bunch of dates and things, then I might go more in depth. If they're just like he was writing a book or something.
Yeah, it's like a journal, and the first page you pick up in big bold letters, it says, "If you are reading this, the objects contained within my private vault are not for mortal hands to touch."
Oh, geez. Now I touched that green Buddha there.
Except for the green Buddha. No. And then the Buddha felt very like a chill to the touch, by the way, when you touched it. Not eerie, not creepy feeling off of it, just cool to the touch. Then you turn the page and there's a detailed list of all the items contained in the safe. And then each one has a little story.
All right. What I will suggest then is that we take the pad and we seal back up the safe and put it back, and we'll leave that for later because that could get into a whole bunch of. It's obviously unrelated to the case that we're working on. It's obviously unrelated to the case that we're working on. And then I'll go to the other safe. Reed, care to try your hand at cracking the safe?
Oh, maybe with my Webley, but that's about all I'm good for with that.
Well, I could teach you.
Yeah, I'll have a go. Rubs me hands, and I go, Markham, what's the combination?
And Malcolm tells you the combination.
Yeah.
You open it up, and there's a little bit more money. There's a locket with a picture of his mother in it, and then there is also 2 small derringers, pearl and silver inlaid, very nice looking weapons. And that's all that's really in there.
Of Brand's mother or Hudson's mother?
Hudson.
Is there, open the locket, is there anything inside the locket?
Just a cameo of, the silhouette.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then Malcolm says there is also one other room that I don't think anyone is aware of. It is the safe room. If you go over here and he brings you to the library, you see that painting?
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like on an angle on the wall. He goes, "That's a viewing port. Behind there is a room that can be locked from the inside, almost like a vault door. It has food and water for 2 weeks, candles, reading material, and toiletries.
Remarkable.
And it also has a breathing grate, an air grate that leads to the, it's too small to climb through, but it feeds air from the street level. So if the house was ever under attack, the lady and myself were told to hide there."
Obviously, we figure out how to open the door and get in.
Yeah, he shows you the whole procedure.
Remarkable.
So that's a
In
just in case incident.
the library, does it seem like anything's been recently pulled out and looked through or worked on? Is there like a library table with a stack of books on it that they were last using, maybe?
Well, you do see there is a few newspapers on the table opened up. If you want to take a look at them,
Certainly.
you pick it up, and it talks about the the Fenian movement and the bombings. It's kind of like circled, and they're trying to. It's kind of trying to. What you appear to see is it's trying to link the Greens and the Fenians together,
This
and
is
then
what they were working on.
linking them to the. There was an explosion in London about 7 months ago that killed 46 people, women and children. A bomb went off at a train station,
Oh, yes, we remember that.
and
It would appear Bull's earlier assessment of some connection between the Greens and the Fenians is well substantiated.
yeah, you believe so.
Well, it's obviously this was what they were working on here.
I wonder if Sergeant Parlow will be able to shed any light onto maybe any sort of Fenian and Green connection.
Well, he might, but we'll have to. I think we might have to save that for when he's next on duty. And I'm thinking, well, you've been doing all this reading. Is there nothing? I mean, Bare Knuckle Bill got knocked out 2 days ago, so there's nothing in the papers about it.
In the newspapers?
Yeah, any notes on there, or anything like that?
Well, I don't know. Has it actually been reported to the police?
Well, you don't think Albie reported it to the police?
And if he was managing himself, there's not really anybody to say he's missing. When is his next fight scheduled?
Oh, well, what I'm talking about is not so much him being missed, but about the fight. Because that kind of money went south, I'm thinking there's got to be somebody in there. I mean, look, the punters on these things, they're not small, just the small guys who like we talk to in a pub. This is big money, people. Right? We got like lords and ladies are going to be laying off money on this kind of stuff.
Well, did Jason ever say there wasn't anything in the newspaper? I imagine there would have to be tons of stuff in the newspaper.
These are like underground fights and stuff. This isn't
So that was an illegal fight that really wouldn't have been reported. Okay.
Right.
If he would have been found strung up somewhere, I'm sure it would have made a newspaper, but the people making the bets don't want other people to know they're betting, and people laying out taking the bets don't want publicity.
This was not an up and up legitimate fight. It was an underground fight. Probably with
Ball's slowly chugging through this. Keep talking. He's coming. He's thinking.
What do we actually know so far? We know that he's missing. We know that he's reported missing by a little boy who used to hang around. We know that the boy hung around with him because Mr. Smith at his place said that he did. We know that there was a big burly fellow that visited him at the apartment complex. And we know that a number of bald-headed men, big bald-headed men, visited him right after the fight.
Yes.
Well, I'm thinking we're looking at a lot of nobblers and bludgers, probably.
And we knew
especially if
that.
I'm picking up after the afterwards. So I'm trying to put this together because look, I've been the rounds. You know, there's always more than one gang involved. Sometimes there's 3 or 4. I'm just saying, major principles, you know. Sometimes they kind of club together a little bit too. So we know there's this Irish lot, to some degree anyway, and there's at least one potential other lot with this Lady O in the middle of it, if I'm getting what you're saying right. And it seems to me that although the Greens would know what's going on, so would the other parties, and there'd be a lot of word out on the streets. And I'm thinking, if Reed and I kind of walk the streets a little bit, seeing that we're real locals around here, maybe we'll pick up some scuttlebutt.
Well, at the moment I was trying to avoid any kind of scuttlebutt, as you put it, and just focus on what we do know. But you are correct. And I shall, of course, do some gambling. There's quite a few places that I'm sure the Greens frequent, or perhaps run.
A little bit of Greens and keeping the old King Lear's going.
Well, I would suggest that at some point, now may not be the right time, but at some point we conduct a surveillance operation on these Greens, find out where they go to, find out who they associate with, and perhaps that'll lead us to, well, the lady or Bare Knuckle Bill.
That could be quite dangerous, though, because they're expecting people to be watching them. They're watching for people to be watching them.
Well, Fletcher, are we detectives or are we not detectives? I don't think Mr. Hudson or Mr. Brand would have shied away from the most direct and...
And Mr. Brand and Mr. Hudson are now dead.
Well,
so
like I said, it may not be the right time, but eventually we might have to conduct a surveillance operation on these individuals.
I agree. However, I'm not one to follow the rules. Following the rules will get you killed.
What rules are there? I'm talking about...
That detectives do what detectives do and criminals do what criminals do. I say detectives should do what criminals do.
I've always felt that detectives should always do what detectives should do, and then criminals should do what criminals do.
One thing's for certain, though, the closer we get to the Greens and the Fenian movement, at some point they may take notice of us if we're not careful. So we might need to keep an eye out, making sure we're not followed or pinned down.
Well, one thing's clear to me. We can't simply go about asking around about the Greens, but we do have the fortunate company of Bull, who has a good history in the ring, and certainly Mr. Fletcher is able to blend in very well. So perhaps through a means of putting down our own bets, maybe on a future fight, we can get closer to this organization.
You hear a thumping on the door.
Somebody's thumping on the door.
Open up.
Markham, the door.
I step around the corner from the door, so I'm out of sight when the door opens.
And Malcolm opens the door, and he's like, sirs, I do believe the police are here.
Where's that safe room again?
Well, Markham, what do they want?
He says his name is Mr. Parlow.
Oh, bring him in. Yes.
I'm going to kind of get out of the room. If he brings up Mr. Smith, I don't know who that is.
Sergeant Parlow. It's been a while.
And he takes his hat off. He's like, reaches out his hand to shake hands. Mr. Williams, Reed, how are you? Mr. Brockworth. And your name, sir? Benedict?
Yes, Benedict Allerton. I've had the
Ah,
fortunate company of working with some of your other fine officers.
Benedict. Just the man I'm here to see.
Well, how can we assist you?
Well, this is, unofficial business. Just here, to pay my respects for the agency. But I was doing, the roll call at the end of the night, checking in with all the bobbies, making sure they survived their shift for the day. And one of them, there was a little discussion going on with a couple of the officers, and they were saying that they overheard something down at the castle, Elephant and Castle. And it was, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, but said something about the bartender and a couple of the greens talking, and they overheard your name.
Well, it's no surprise we were down there earlier, and I had certainly inquired as to the greens. It's a bit of a necessity in this line of work, as I'm sure you can understand.
Oh, well, most of my personal men can be trusted, but money changes hands every day in this city, and it's a grim place. One of the guys I trust just said, something, they were asking about you. I don't know of the extent, but the bartender down there is a shifty bastard.
Well, Mr. Parlow, I can assure you this isn't the first time my colleagues and I have run into danger, and we aren't going to get anywhere sitting around this house, simply shuffling through old papers. Some investigative work needs to be done, and obviously we would appreciate any help you could aid in that particular endeavor.
Oh, all I know is I'm a copper, and I wouldn't go messing around with O'Riordan.
Who's that?
O'Riordan,
O'Riordan.
the head of the Greens.
I'll take a quick look over at my colleagues, as perhaps they're having a similar thought as I am as to the last name. But I'll say that's an interesting last name. O'Riordan. He's a local around here. The head of the Greens, you say?
Oh, absolutely.
O'Riordan doesn't sign his letters with just an O by any chance. Has anyone taken notice?
I've never seen him sign anything, actually. Usually keeps his hands clean from any of... That's why we can't nail him, because he seems to never be where the body is, or never seems to be where the raid is, never seems to be where the evidence is.
But this Mr. O'Riordan, does he come out in public often? Does he travel around the city, or is he mostly a discreet figure?
He travels like he owns the place.
Yeah, very good. So wouldn't be a surprise. Wouldn't be a surprise to see him down at a fight or something of that nature.
Oh, at the over at the cooperage?
Oh, yes. If certain illegal activities were to be taking place, perhaps they'd be taking place at the cooperage. Sure.
Yeah, whenever there's a fight, he's always there. Him and that big gorilla he hangs around with.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, Sergeant. Is there one particular individual who's described also as a beast?
He's about 6'10", about 350 pounds. His name's Mr. Seams, or at least that's the moniker he goes by. Rumor has it he ripped off in a bar fight. He ripped off the gentleman's arm and beat him to death with it, clean out of the shoulder.
Seams.
That's the moniker he goes by, Mr. Seams.
Does this Mr. O'Riordan or O'Riordan have a wife?
I do not know.
Well,
why do you ask?
Well, I'm just curious because, lad like that, he's always probably going to be walking around with a bit of skirt on his arm, I would think. I just wondered if he had a missus that hangs out there or a doxy that he holds.
Not that not that I can ever recall. He's always with the tarts though.
Who isn't?
You know, in my off time I do too, but such is life in London.
Auntie Vi sends her regards.
But I mean, he's seen with the real, carpet layers, the ones that walk around with the carpet under their arm. Dip out into a little alley and take care of business, like the lowest.
Dolly mops, you got to be kidding me.
Yep.
Well, there you go. I'm more in the line of the prima donnas myself.
Who can afford the prima donnas?
Well, let's just say my Auntie Vi says I can charm the knickers off a nun.
And they laugh.
Officer, I don't know if your men would be willing to keep their ears to the ground for us, but we happen to be looking into the recent the disappearance of Mr. Bare Knuckle Bill himself. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, well, I figured he was just laying low. So many people lost money on him. I'm sure people are, if he walks down the street, he's a nice guy, but I'm sure people losing a week's salary or two on him, people will be throwing rotten cabbage at him.
That's a fair theory. We just we were approached by a young lad that had some concerns of his own. Usually he's seen Bill by now and hasn't seen him for a number of days.
Well, I can look into that if you want, stop by the station in a day or so. I can see what,
Well, we would be much appreciative. Certainly, we'll happy to follow up with you in a day or so. If your men hear anything, it'd be of much use to us.
All right. Yeah, I'll look into that. I'll see if there's anything I can get out of anybody. Everybody else doing okay here?
Yeah, we're very glad you stopped by.
Well, actually, Sergeant, I do have one question for you.
Sure.
Maybe you can. Who are the Greens' biggest rivals?
Well, in this area, they pretty much took over. They've been getting some help. Not quite sure who it's from, but maybe some bigger players, because over the last year or so, they've pretty much taken, 50 block radius is theirs. Nobody, you have your small time, street urchins and stuff, but they all pay them, they give a vig to them, so.
Yeah, I'm figuring, well, it's nice to know they got some help, and like you say, you don't know who that is, right? So that's kind of interesting. How fast did the Greens get big?
It's funny that you bring that up too. We were just talking about that a few months ago, actually. They seem to be, kind of nobodies, or they used to get their tails kicked up and down the streets, sometimes. About maybe 6 to 8 months ago, they just kind of took over.
Is that when the Fenian movement started taking root or so?
The Fenian movement, that's been on and off for years. I mean, that dates back many a year. I don't know if there's a direct connection between the Greens and the Fenians. I know the Fenian movement, they're struggling for money themselves. They're organized, but they're not well funded. They're more of an anarchist level.
Did the Greens control the cooperage and all the illegal fights that are occurring in the area?
Oh, the cooperage is the Greens' territory.
Have you identified any other locations that they? We think that they frequent the Elephant Castle and.
Yeah, the Elephant and Castle they drink at, but I don't think they don't own it. They just happen to hang out there a lot, frequent that place a lot. But I'm pretty sure that the cooperage would be probably their base of operations. I've been ordered not to touch it, so we leave it alone.
Right.
Are some cops in the pay?
Oh, absolutely. And to be honest, since the Greens took over, gang activity and violent activity in the area has been cut nearly in half. You know, most people are afraid to act on things, and then the ones that do pay an honorage fee to the Greens. So,
Right. So looking at that, because that's the very nature of things around the villains. I know that, you know, they go in. It's kind of like one gang is good, two gangs is one too many. So who'd have the biggest soapy bubble and grief with the Greens? Who got pushed out? Who might be moving back in or trying to?
He thinks for a moment. He goes, "There were the bloody roosters."
Oh, that little lot, eh?
But there's only a handful of them left. The Greens took them out in one night.
One night?
Yeah, they
Massacre.
about 23 men slit their throat. Straight
Dear
razors.
God.
But like the higher ups told us to leave them alone. I'm sure somebody up top's getting paid off, but at the same time, illegal activities, I don't want to say all but ceased, but let's face it, if my job's easier and the men's job is easier, who's to complain? I'm not on the take, otherwise I'd be affording those higher mistresses, but
With the Roosters, would they have enough muscle to maybe do some pushing back? Or would they need some help?
I don't think they could do a push-up, never mind pushing back at this point.
Yeah, with 23 of their members with slit throats, that's a devastating blow.
They all but splintered and went to the, and a lot of them were absorbed right into the Greens.
Oh, really? So the Greens have kind of tied up this whole area in a nice little package.
Yep.
Just a curiosity, have you ever heard of any lady associated with the, or someone referred to as a lady associated with the Greens?
Can't say as I have. No. That's a mystery.
Yeah, it's all rum doings, that's for sure, Sergeant.
Mrs. Levi, get Hudson's cat out of air.
Anything else you want to ask the officer?
No, I think I'm done.
Sir, I believe that's all. Thank you,
right, Sergeant. We'll get with you in a couple of days. See how it's all going.
All right. Now, unless there's anything else you want to do, I think the next course of action would be to check out the cooperage, and we could pick that up on our next adventure.
Excellent.
Yep. Got some talking to do amongst ourselves, but
You're muted, Tom.
Yeah.
Tom, you're muted.
So we're going to call it there then. All right.
I believe so, unless you had any other questions for Sergeant Parlow.
I wasn't there with that. I left the room.
but basically all we need is a little bit of talking time amongst ourselves to kind of get our thoughts in order.
Yeah. You guys could do that now too if you want. That'll be fine.
Well, let's do it in the beginning of the next one. That way, it'll sort of refresh our memories. Our players included Joshua Hook, Kevin Glazner, Raymond Offord, Stuart Lipley, and myself with Jason Melnichuk. Was that right? Jason Melnichuk is Keeper of the Secrets. We're currently producing up to 4 shows a week with music and sound effects added in post-production in order to create a richer listener experience. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. If you'd like to become a patron, visit our Patreon account. Just $1 or $2 a month helps us a lot. You can find a link in the description below. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel and punch that bell icon for updates on our latest shows. And leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answering any questions you might have. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck, good gaming.